Okay, so we've been keeping up with what's been going on in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, otherwise known as CHAZ, which they recently changed the name to Capitol Hill Organized Protest, known as CHOP. Call it whatever you want, it's the same daggone thing going on there. Except now, you know how we started off, we were covering the stuff, and it was somewhat peaceful. It just looked like a bunch of little brats taking over a zone, playing pretend. Then we started to see it get a little more violent. They were stealing things from people, residents started to get a little worried, but everyone said it was still okay. Well, and now it's gotten even more violent. So let's take a look at what happened this morning around 2 a.m. At least 2 people were shot and 1 was killed inside Seattle's Capitol Hill organized protest area early Saturday morning, and police say they're investigating despite it being a no-cop zone in the city. Videos recorded Saturday morning show volunteer medics scrambling to help the purported victims after Seattle Police Department radio dispatchers received multiple reports of 3 to 6 gunshots around 2:20 a.m. Hold on a second. This no-cop zone, this defund the police zone, this area where they don't want cops, somebody's at least calling in, and it says the radio dispatchers received multiple reports of 3 to 6 gunshots. So someone is calling in what is happening here, calling into the police to alert them at what is going on here. So people in this area, maybe it's residents trapped in this area, I don't know, but somebody in this area is like, oh wait, we need the police, gunshots are going off. Who would have thought? So people involved in the incident were seen fleeing from the scene. Okay, we know the police abandoned the area. Yeah. So the police arrive on the scene on foot, prepared with anti-protest and riot gear, because they don't want to get attacked. And the East Precinct Police radio chatter said officers who arrived on the scene were collecting shell casings and evidence, and the second victim had a gunshot wound to the arm and the chest. So the people didn't attack the cops, I guess. They let them come in and collect the evidence. They want them to figure out who did this and take care of it, I suppose. Also, the Seattle Fire Department, I guess, had been called to the scene to treat the victim, but they had already been transported by volunteers. So I guess it was tough for the emergency services to get in there and help the people, so the people took it into their own hands and transported them to Harborview, where they had, I guess, resident medical experts in the CHAZ try to treat them and take care of them. So more on that, the local videographers reported that one of the victims was transported by non-ambulance locals to the Harborview protest camp, staffed by medical volunteers. Capitol Hill Seattle blog reported the man was dead when he arrived, so he did not make it. And he goes on here to talk about, the shootings and everything going on in the zone. But, so what do we have? So the violence has escalated from, stealing people's things, punching, beating people up, to now we're at shootings. And, you want the cops to come in and investigate it or don't you? You want them defunded or don't you? Some people are still calling for them and having them come in the area. You can't... what are you going to do when you defund the police and there are no police and then this happens? Who comes in and investigates that? Who's responsible for that? Can we talk about reform and stuff? Sure. Can we come up with different things? So many different solutions being talked about out there. But completely getting rid of any form of law enforcement in an area? Maybe you want to rethink that, especially if you're calling for them yourselves in the zone. But we'll continue. So, more violence inside the zone. Let's look at this guy. He says this was on Friday. He says he was threatened, detained by people inside of the CHOP while live streaming. So what happened? New video shows a confrontation that happened when a man was live streaming as he walked through the CHOP zone. He said he was threatened and detained by people camping inside the zone, at Cal Anderson Park. Protest leaders denounced Thursday night what happened to the man and said it distracts from the message of protest. They admit that that was wrong and any of the violence going on there is wrong. The leaders of the protests say this. So he was a video game designer. He was streaming. And in the video, a man comes up to him and tells him not to film this tent area. Here's the exchange caught on video, and you can watch the video on their site here. They have the full thing. In the exchange caught on video, the camper says, "You see this sign?" And Sean, the guy filming, says, right, I'm not getting the people. What's the problem with the tents? He's just filming the tent area. The camper says, "This is where I live. It's our houses." Sean says, "It's a tent." And the camper says, "Can I come to your house and take photos of your house?" And Sean goes, "No, but my house isn't a public park." And this is a ridiculous conversation, right? These people set up tents in this public park, and he's walking through with a video camera, and this guy thinks he's tough stuff, comes up and, is in the guy's face for filming. So during the video, the man claimed that media isn't allowed to film there, and the man is heard on video telling him not to film for his own safety. We call that a threat. He says, you need to stop doing this for your own safety. Very intimidating, up in his face. It's a threat. It's clear that it's a threat. So, Whitting said when he tried to leave the area, he was detained and forced to delete the video. You can hear him asking for help. Then in the background, you hear another guy, I guess join this camper guy, going, what do you mean help? Who's going to help you? That's a scary thing. And Whitting says he was terrified. He was actually, it was pure terror in the moment of I'm screaming for help and nobody's coming to help me, and no one's going to come over and reinforce this guy. He had a good hold of me from behind and wasn't letting me leave. So he's filming this stuff. They grab him and essentially force him to delete this video on his phone. I guess since he was live streaming, it did save to the cloud because I've seen the video. So it did save. He just, I guess, deleted it locally and they let him go. But it's pretty intimidating. I mean, you're there alone and you're filming this stuff. And this guy wasn't even trying to stir stuff up. He's literally just filming what's going on. And these people in this zone, they realize there's not going to be any repercussions. And they're not afraid to threaten this guy with violence because, nothing's going to happen to them for doing that. They can do something to him and get away with it because there's no police. They want to defund the police and get rid of the police. They don't need them. So it's a scary thing to look out for. As we continue, Capitol Hill residents, the people that live in this zone that was taken over, are starting to express their frustration amidst protests at the CHOP. Now, at first, when I was looking through reports on Twitter and Reddit, these people were claiming to be residents, saying, oh, we love the protesters here, it's a great thing, blah, blah, blah. And all these people claiming to be residents said it was a great, wonderful thing. Well, we actually have evidence coming out that these residents aren't so happy, and maybe just anybody was claiming to be a resident and was fine with people living there. But what we have from actual residents in the area, a lot of them are not liking what's going on. Let's take a look. Some residents who live near Capitol Hill organized protest or CHOP zone said Friday that their frustration is mounting over what's happening in the area and a perceived lack of response from the city. One said, I think it's ludicrous. What has happened is you have armed people holding hostage a neighborhood. It's absurd. It's not a protest. There's no free speech. You get shouted down. We've seen this multiple times. You're all, everything's fine and good until you do something someone there doesn't like, or you do something the majority doesn't like, and then they swarm and they get you and you're shut down. It's not free speech. Palaskaj told Cuomo News that his apartment building had been broken into at least 3 times since the CHOP effort began. I'm for Black Lives Matter, but they're holding hostage a neighborhood, he said. I'm not safe. Any criminal can come in the neighborhood and do what they want. There's nothing the police are going to do. On Friday, a group of Capitol Hill property owners sent Mayor Jenny Durkin and members of the Seattle City Council a letter expressing their belief that the city had abandoned them. Their letter reads in part that no one in our city government seems to care. It also reads in part, we need help. We need our city to enforce its laws. Included in that letter were photos of sprawling tents all over Calenderson Park, vehicles parked on the lawn, bonfires at night, damaged and stolen equipment. Here's their letter. In it, they mention they're afraid for their safety, afraid for their community, afraid for losing what they've worked for decades for. They need help. They're asking for help from their city. They need protection. This is what the city's supposed to do. So they say they hope to see changes soon. It's scary. You have perfectly, great citizens. I'm sure they have their problems and things wrong with them, but they're just living their lives in this area, and it gets taken over by these punks, and it's ridiculous. There's violence breaking out, people's homes being broken into multiple times. Some people aren't even staying there because they're afraid they're staying with friends or family or have gotten out of the area temporarily until this is cleared up. But these people coming in, claiming all these good things about what their zone and organized protest is in this area, it's bullcrap. You've taken over, an area full of where people have lived and interrupted their livelihood, and people are getting hurt because of it. If you really wanted to create your own little area, why not go out in the middle of nowhere where you're not affecting all these other people? But no, that's not what you want. You want to affect other people, so you come into a big city area like this and you take over. It's ridiculous, and it's getting ridiculous that it's still going on, and the residents are getting fed up with it. There was a business owner in the area that says police were a no-show during a burglary in progress. And it's no surprise. They barely showed up to investigate the shooting. You know, they showed up very cautious, and I don't blame them. They're probably afraid of getting attacked or killed themselves. But, you know, they show up super cautious for the shooting. I don't think they're going to show up for a burglary. Business owners and residents in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood are questioning public safety since protesters have taken over several blocks. The police chief addressed concerns about CHOP on Monday after a business owner said officers didn't show up during his time of need. Quote, "There is no cop-free zone in the city of Seattle," the chief said, addressing unease about officers being told not to respond to calls in CHOP unless it's a mass casualty event. "They would not respond to our call," I guess the owner said. "I think that it's a pretty serious call, right? When you have somebody in your building that has started a fire inside your building, stolen your property, I mean, what has to happen for them to respond?" He claims his auto shop was set on fire and burglarized. Video shows the business partner and his son at the business right after the incident, eventually getting into a scuffle with the alleged suspect and protesters. It appears to have happened on the edge of the CHOP zone. It looked like a very dangerous situation that could have gotten out of hand very easily. So here we are with more residents and business owners in the zone. You know, they're trying to keep their business up and running after the whole COVID pandemic had them shut down. Just trying to get back on their feet, and boom, they're hit with this. Ridiculous. Tensions in Capitol Hill mount as residents and protesters clash over access and crime. You may have seen, you may not, these giant concrete barriers. They were traded in return for shrinking the zone. So the zone's now smaller, but they've got these huge concrete barricades up, preventing people from getting in and out. Yes, they make little access routes for emergency, but doesn't really seem to be working or benefiting anybody, especially when the emergency response can't get in to help people that have been shot in time. So yeah, it's getting out of control. The zone is turning into a violent, chaotic mess. Yes, some people are there still enjoying their little hippie lifestyle in their tents, but the moment someone comes and opposes them, films them, or does something they don't like, they either get grabbed, assaulted, or maybe even shot, according to what happened early on this morning. So no, this zone is not a happy, friendly place where everyone's getting along. There is conflict, and you'll continue to see stories like this coming out. People are starting to go in there armed. The one dude is handing out guns out of the back of his Tesla, and I'm all for having the right to carry your firearms. You have the right to defend yourself, but the people that are going into this zone that are armed are the ones that most easily resort to violence when someone disagrees with them. A lot of the people that are out there, you know, your average everyday people that push for, you know, protecting your Second Amendment rights and the right to hold on to your firearm, aren't going out and shooting people that disagree with them and getting angry, assaulting other people just because they disagree. You see that from these super far left, you know, Antifa style people in these protest areas that think they're all tough stuff because there's no cops in the area and they can beat the absolute crap out of whoever they want. And hopefully we don't see this escalate more. Hopefully this zone goes away, gets shut down. I don't know what that looks like, and you know what form that takes on. Whether the police are finally going to come in and shut it down, but then they'll, you know, the people in the area will claim that the police are the bad guys for that and attack the police for that. But if the police don't come in, you know, people complain the police aren't responding to the problems and protecting them. It's you've got people with different ideologies in the zone wanting different things. And you still have the people clashing over whether it's the CHAZ or the CHOP. You have people that just want it to be about the protests. You have people that want it to be about seceding from the United States. It's a chaotic place. But that will do it for today's updates on the CHAZ, CHOP, whatever you want to call it, zone. Thank you guys for tuning in. And if you like this, remember to leave a like and click the subscribe button so you're notified when we come out with additional information. And if nothing else, just please share the video to get it out there past YouTube's algorithms, because we know how YouTube is. It doesn't like to share this kind of content. They probably want you to think CHAZ is a happy-go-lucky, good time zone. That'll be it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.